HTKB, HTKB, HTKB. This is the house that Kamurai built. Time to get started.
Hey everybody, I'm Cam. There's been something that's been bugging me for quite some time, and the other day I came across a Facebook post that kind of sent out to me. The post went something like, Xbox One revealed, must be online every day. Might just be a PC gamer exclusively now, which I immediately like because PC gaming wins all. You have all the advantages and almost none of the disadvantages, at least none that a console wouldn't have as well. And when I say PC, I don't just mean Windows PC, Linux, Mac, Android, Chrome. There was some clamoring for the PS4 over the Xbox One, but let's be honest, they're going to do similar things, and the arguments kind of go something like this. What's wrong with being online all the time every day? Your computer is, which is really evidence against its own statement. Why do I want another computer that has to be online all the time? And the statement itself isn't even true. My computer doesn't have to be online. If I lose internet, I can still do things on the computer. Moving along, the poster actually made a really good future-thinking point that forced into a situation, companies have the tendency to add fees and restrictions, censorship. There are a lot of problems with brand-controlled merchandise, and you hear the complaints every day. And it's pretty much agreed that gaming communities generally are already doing this type of thing anyways. They're just not doing it to the extent that we're talking about now. What it results in for me is that company getting less of my money than they probably would have. I'm not about to put down money for something I don't believe in. Why bother? Why buy a product that you don't actually want? And the poster pointed out Steam as sort of a white knight, and while I don't agree with that, it's definitely the least of evils in all this. While Steam is great, it's not the end-all be-all solution. It's saving grace that Steam itself is free, but its use of products through Steam is where the charges come in. But more than likely, the only reason that it's really caught as much Steam as it has. And of course, one of the two biggest DRM failures ever was mentioned, SimCity 4. Because of the restrictions put on by Origin and the always online feature, not only did people complain and scream and hate, the people who actually paid to it had all sorts of server issues. So the company wasn't even prepared for this service that they have already mandated that they would have to do. Diablo 3 was the other one, and while both games are wildly successful as far as I'm concerned, as far as general enjoyment by the community, I think it's a real mixed feelings type of bag. People hate that feature on the game to the point where they have scoured and created cracks to play it offline by themselves when they don't want to deal with all these other people. When really that should have been an option put in by the game creators in the first place, not something to be restricted from doing. There's no point in person A agreeing to provide a service person B and then that service be dependent on person C. Person C has nothing to do with anything. If I'm buying a game from you, let me buy the game from you. I'll play it however I need to play it. Even though many people are privileged middle to upper class Americans, and I'm speaking worldwide here, not everybody has a reliable internet connection. It may go out because of a tsunami or what have you. The person who bought your product shouldn't be punished because you can't guarantee your services through this third party. The people who actually are financially sensible and save up all year to buy your expensive luxury products, they're already paying to power these devices. Why do they need to pay a third party to run your hardware? Why do I need two fuel sources? It doesn't make any sense. I may have the day off and AT&T decides to do maintenance on my internet. This has actually happened before. In that case, I'm not able to play your game because you didn't have the foresight to give me control over whether or not I need to be connected. Regardless, the fact is that DRM and always online turn away consumers. Not pirates and criminals, consumers. People that are actually willing to pay for your product. On top of all that, what happens in 10 years? What happens in 5 years from now? EA or Blizzard decide they're not going to service those servers anymore. The game just disappears. You paid $60 once for something that's now less than nothing. Because you can't even give it away. You can't use it. It's null. It doesn't exist anymore, even though it's sitting on your hard drive. The only solution to people at that point is for EA and Blizzard to sell server licenses to the general public and let them run their own servers, which might be a good business model for them, but I'm not sure that people are going to want that so much. Why am I going to buy this server license for this old game? More than likely somebody's going to reverse engineer it eventually anyways, if it's not already been done. But help you right now if you want to sell or trade this property of yours. I don't even know how to begin to look at about trying to sell my Diablo 3 copy off to somebody. No idea. And it's not worth my time to research it. What made me sad about this post at this point was that somebody was actually requesting that the companies charge them a fee to buy a used game. Used in this definition being that it had been installed previously on someone else's. In which case you're buying a used license, which doesn't make any sense at all because there's not like there's a true restriction in licenses. Even if you get a physical copy of it, there is no reason for anyone else besides person A and person B to be involved in the selling of that used game. In the best case, the seller should be charged a percentage for moving that game out. The buyers shouldn't be charged anything. It's a set price. That's what the whole point of buying a used game is, to save a little bit of money. And why punish the person buying the game? Because you as the company want more money? No. And moving on to the more important topic of digital copies, I, as a holder of property on a license, should be able to forfeit my rights to that license to gift it to somebody else. Possibly I could agree with there being a slight admin fee for selling that game because there's somebody doing work to transfer your license over to someone else's profile, so I could get behind that. With digital copies, there is no used. You're buying licenses at a set price. It doesn't matter where they come from. It makes more sense for the company to buy back a license to give you some credit than for you to transfer to someone else anyways. And theoretically, you're losing pricing advantages from buying used digital copies. But with digital copies, there's no manufacturing costs. There's no shipping costs. It's all electronic. The prices should drastically reduce, but at least have themselves, which is going to increase the chances of people buying the games in the first place, which is going to increase profits, which they should be doing even with physical copies. And with ease of distribution, publishers don't have to do as much work, so they can do more work and they can take a more standardized cut of the profits from games being sold, with the proper amount going to the developers who made the game in the first place, who should be getting the majority of the profits instead of big monsters like EA. The last thing that came up in the conversation before I ruined the post, sorry guys if you're watching, was an admittance of one of the biggest problems in the retail game community. That people, compelled to buy video games as they are, give their hard-earned money away to people and companies they hate in order to get games they love that they've never played before. This is where the bad stereotype for gamers come from. That will let companies swindle us out of money that we may not even have to buy games that we don't have the time or shouldn't have the time to play, which doesn't amount to anything that anyone who doesn't already love the same games we love can even fathom. And what's actually worse is that big companies like Sony, and don't ask me how, last I heard they were losing money on PS3s. But big companies like Sony get told that we like what they're doing, that we want more of the same, that we want that next new thing from them however they deem fit. When a dog shits on your bed, don't you dare pet it. You squirt it, you crate it, kick the stupid thing if you really need to, and you make sure that it knows that you don't like what it just did. The only way that we have to do that with big companies is to not give them our money. And then eventually they'll go, oh, this isn't what they wanted, we'll try to fix it. Or eventually we'll just put them down. And the way we do that is that we don't spend money with them for long enough that they go out of business. The fact is that these are luxury items. Nobody has to have them, no matter how much you think you're compelled to. And we vote and privilege and reinforce these companies by spending money with. The only reason that I don't own the unfinished Swan is that I wouldn't be able to play without a PS3. And I'm not about to buy one from a company that I don't like for a price that's still way too high, even on the verge of the PS4 coming out. The developers of Unfinished Swan, or even Sony, could sell it to me on a different platform, and I would pay them. But they're choosing not to take my money at the risk of me actually buying a PS3 from them eventually and then making that much more off of me. There's not a single game out there that I wouldn't rather play on my PC with a gaming controller. One that I picked, that I map keys to, and that I'm comfortable with, instead of being forced to use the brand-specific controller or the brand-specific hardware. Here's the real meat of the message. Eventually, people will realize that consoles are dead technology. Just like the phone, just like cable television. Both of those are things that are going to be phased out. It's becoming more and more standard, especially in Japan and America, for people to have smartphones. Smartphones are just little computers that have a phone application on them. They're not actually phones anymore. Eventually, all phones will just be phone apps on different devices. Phone lines will go away. You can do so much more with voice over IPs than you can with phone lines. There's no point to it. Cable television, the short version is, why are you going to tell me when I can watch things? You put it out whenever it comes out, I decide when I'm going to watch it. If you've been following anything on a network website, you watch YouTube videos, or even if you use a DVR, you're familiar with the process. The problem with the DVR is that you're paying extra money for a feature you should already have built in because it's easier on everyone involved. Another short problem that YouTube is slowly addressing more and more is programming by demand. A lot of people want HBO for Game of Thrones, but they don't want standard cable because they don't want 200 channels they're not going to watch. Eventually, these companies will fade or train themselves to do something new that the customer actually wants. And eventually, the customer will realize what they actually want is video on demand, which is what the internet is for. You taking control of your experience and doing what you want to do with it. The solution is to take the specialized hardware, the Kinects, the dance pads, the game controllers, make some kind of wrapper device that actually helps your PC communicate with the hardware you're using, regardless of what it is, and have that be the platform. This allows for module manufacturing and selling on behalf of the companies. It allows the customer to save money to buy only what they need instead of a whole brand of things they don't want. Plus, it solves the cross-platforming issue, which has plagued everybody since the start of the console wars. Because companies are saving money because they don't have to manufacture all these brand-specific nonsense, they are able to make more as publishers. Sony can act as more of a mitigator between developers and consumers and push games out, allowing them to take more cuts instead of a larger cut. The resulting problem from this solution is that it requires people to be smarter, and nobody likes that. Companies like stupid people because they can trick you into buying their products more if you don't know as much about it. Consumers don't want to learn. They're very apathetic. They'd rather just be like, I got this thing, I'm cool and hip, and now I can do this thing that everyone else wants to do. People statistically want to do things because other people are able or want to be able to do them. It's that whole evolution monkey at the top of the pyramid type thing. The great benefit of this is this allows a whole temporary market while generations get smarter of kids growing up putting together rigs for other people who don't care to know about it. Either upgrading or building rigs to be able to handle these type of hardwares pre-made. That allows Ma and Pa Gomer over there to just buy an entertainment rig instead of having to figure out what all the pieces are and how to put them together. It'd be great if instead of the next generation flipping burgers, they're flipping PCs. I'm just saying. Like Steam, all the specialized hardware is going to be ran by software that communicates with your PC. Your PC can tell that software to turn itself on or off. Steam isn't always online because I can turn it off and close the program whenever I want. While I touch on it, Steam isn't even the end-all solution. Board games suffer electronically on Steam. I should be able to buy a board game like I do in real life and have people over to play that board game. I could share it with them, even though it's licensed to me, not because I'm the purchaser. On Steam, everyone has to buy their own board game and essentially bring their own pieces to a shared game. The way digital board games need to be distributed is that you serve out host licenses, and everyone can play the game for free, but in order to host the game, somebody has to pay for it. Just like real board games. And maybe one day there'll be a Steam board game. While I'm typically an Empire man, because we're all one group of people, and we should act as such, this is one case where the Republic is really the answer. Each game development company needs to be in charge of their own product, their own distribution, and it needs to be affordable enough for them to do so. Likewise, they need to be responsible for its own upkeep for things like servers and such. And ideally, you should be able to have a mock server or a local LAN server that you control to play when you don't have the internet or you don't want the internet. The point is not to be forced into it by a big company just because they think that they can bully you into doing whatever they want. I, for one, have no intention of buying an Xbox One or a PS4. For the record, I do honestly plan on buying a PS3 eventually, if anything, just so I can play Unfinished Swan. The fact is that we point out 100 things that are being done poorly, but they never get fixed because people keep supporting mistakes and they don't offer solutions up themselves. I'm only one person. I don't have the capabilities to do a lot of the things on my own or the resources to start up companies that will take care of the solutions. What anyone can do is choose where you spend your money and be conservative about it. You earned it. You have the right to do whatever you want to do with it. So don't do something with it that you don't actually want to do just because somebody's dangling some false gold in front of your face. I'm sure I've taken up enough of your time. I'm Cam. Have a nice day.